I wanted to go ahead and rank for you what I think are the 5 biggest moments in Survivor Series history, ranked from number 5 all the way up to number 1. Now, feel free as we go along here. You guys can chime in with your feedback and chime in also to let me know what you think. What you think are the biggest moments in Survivor Series history. So people are talking now about Owens and Sammy and had they had a match at WrestleMania. They did. They wrestled. Wasn't it WrestleMania 37? Just because they did it once before doesn't mean they can't do it again. But yes, they have wrestled at WrestleMania before. Anyway, let's get into this here. The 5 biggest moments in Survivor Series history. We're going to begin here with number 5 on the list. And this was a big one. Believe you me, this was a big one at the time. Number 5, The Undertaker beating Hulk Hogan to become WWF champion for the very first time. Hulk Hogan was unstoppable back then, right? The Ultimate Warrior beat him at WrestleMania 6. And that was pretty much it, right? You just did not see Hulk Hogan lose very often. The Undertaker had only just made his debut at the Survivor Series the year before. So he was still basically a rookie in this company. He had only been there a year. He goes in there, and not only is he wrestling Hulk Hogan for the WWF title, he beats him. And when he beats him, you could hear the cheers. Not everybody in the building, but enough of them that you could hear the reaction from the crowd. There were people who were big Undertaker fans, or maybe they just hated Hogan and they just were tired of his shtick and they wanted him to lose the belt. But I'll never forget that moment when Earl Hebner's hand hit the mat for the 3 count. The reaction from the crowd, Bobby Heenan on commentary screaming that Hulkamania is dead. Ric Flair sliding the chair into the ring, and even though Hogan's head was 6 inches off the mat, of course, he's laying on the ground like he's fucking paralyzed. Undertaker tells the story of what happened in the back after the event. Hogan acting as if he really was injured. Undertaker thought, that's it, my career's over. This should have been the biggest night of his life, right? He just beat Hulk Hogan and won the world title, and he's terrified that he's going to lose his job because he hurt the Golden Goose. Hogan's laying on the ground, get my wife on the phone. Get my wife. Get my kids, brother. Get Linda. Brooke. It took other people, other wrestlers, to show him tape the next day at the tapings or whatever it was. And he confronted Hogan about it. And Hogan told him, because Hogan had told him coming into it that he had like a bad neck. Well, you jammed me. You jammed my neck, brother. From that day forward, Undertaker had no love lost for Hulk Hogan. He saw Hulk Hogan for what he was. But I assure you, him beating Hogan was a very big moment for this young wrestling fan. Number 4. Top list of Survivor Series moments. We flash forward from 1991 to 2014. This was a moment. This was the WWE debut of Sting. Coming out at the very end of the Team Cena versus Team Authority Survivor Series elimination match, which honestly may have been one of the last great Survivor Series elimination matches that they ever had. Sting comes out. JBL nearly completely ruins the moment because he automatically just starts reading Sting's accomplishments like his resume. He's reading us his fucking Wikipedia page here. 5-time champion, 3-time champion. Like, instead of letting the moment just be organic, it's like he had a prepared statement ready, reading off his accomplishments. Motherfucker, this is Sting's first appearance ever in this company. Shut the fuck up and let the moment speak for itself. I just remember being so fucking pissed. Like, just shut up. Let the moment breathe. Sting comes down to the ring. Triple H is in the ring. And they circle each other. He ends up dropping him with a Scorpion Death Drop. Sting pulls Dolph Ziggler on top of Seth Rollins. Dolph Ziggler, by the way, the sole survivor for his team. That was a big night for Dolph. And I felt that this was a moment that could be a launching pad for him. And of course, it wasn't. but it could have been. But I remember loving the Survivor Series match. And Sting debuting was just sort of the cherry on top. Yeah, was it too late? Yes. Sting should have debuted in this company at least 5 years earlier. Then we could have gotten that Sting Undertaker match that we never got. But I suppose better late than never, even though this run turned out to be just completely forgettable. In the moment, it was a very big moment. And the fans popped big when he helped Dolph win the match. So that's number 4. Number 3, top Survivor Series moments of all time. We go back in time to 2002. The very first Elimination Chamber match. Triple H defending the World Heavyweight Championship. You had Chris Jericho, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, Kane. And you had this man, the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, who had only just made his return in August. That was his first match in 4 years. He beat Triple H at SummerSlam. Triple H hit him with a sledgehammer. We didn't see him back in the ring again until this match here. And this was the very first Elimination Chamber. They were in Madison Square Garden. What a moment it was. Shawn Michaels, not having been world champion in years, didn't even think he would ever be back. Pins Triple H and wins the World Heavyweight title in the middle of Madison Square Garden. And Triple H, of course, got his throat crushed by RVD in this match, could barely breathe. But he put his best friend over, and it was this incredible moment. You had Jim Ross on the call, making it special. And that was the last championship, singles championship, that Shawn Michaels ever held. So if I remember, I think he and Triple H may have been tag team champions. I think. But yeah, that was the last time we ever saw Shawn Michaels with singles gold. And it was a great moment. And honestly, in terms of Elimination Chamber matches, this one's got to be up there still as one of the best they ever did. Now we get to number 2. The second biggest moment in Survivor Series history belongs to this man. CM Punk. This was just last year, 2023, in Chicago. The babyfaces win War Games. Randy Orton makes a triumphant return. They're all celebrating in the ring, and then we hear Cult of Personality. And everybody in Chicago. Triple H with that freaking copyright box. He used to get me all the time in NXT with that shit. And he does it again here on the main roster. They want you to think the show's about to go off the air, and you hear ch-ch. They play Cult of Personality. Out comes Punk. This was his return to the company in first time in nearly 10 years. And we know all the drama that played out in AEW, right? A lot of baggage he came into this company with. Not even just from AEW, but just from his last time in WWE. A lot of baggage there. But he walked out there, man, and he got a hero's welcome. And it was a great moment. It was one of the biggest reactions that you will ever hear. People were shocked. Some people were upset. Some people were happy. People were crying tears of joy. You had that one guy in the crowd when he grabbed Punk, put his arm around him and started chanting Chicago, Chicago, Chicago over and over again. I don't know if he was talking about the pizza that he loves or just he's very happy to be in Chicago, but people were very happy to see CM Punk. It really did. It really did feel like hell froze over. And now here we are. 1 year later, Punk has now been back for a year. And it's kind of hard to grade because he got hurt and he missed a good portion of this year. But that great feud with Drew McIntyre, the excellent Hell in a Cell match they had at Bad Blood, now he's going to be in War Games. I don't know how you can call this first year anything but a success, a huge success for him and for WWE. They've made a lot of money off this man. And believe me, if they build to anything with him and Roman Reigns next year, they're going to make a lot more money off this guy. But in terms of all-time returns, this is up there. This one right here. There's a lot of people that would have this at the very top of the list. Which leaves one more. One more. What is the biggest moment in Survivor Series history? I mean, this really should come as no surprise. in the number 1 spot, we have the Montreal Screwjob from 1997. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, and it sucks. You know, it sucks for a lot of reasons. But it sucks because these two guys were out there having what probably would have ended up being the best match that these two have ever had. These two were out there because a lot of people are not as enamored with the Iron Man match as some people are. I'm one of those people. And when you really look at their body of work, I mean, they had a really good main event at the Survivor Series in 1992, but they never really went out there and had that just barn burner of a classic. Again, I never looked at the Iron Man match that way. They were having a great match until the bullshit that happened at the very end. It just so happens that the bullshit that happened at the very end, really, in many ways, it changed the history of wrestling. It really did. You see what happened in WWE after the Montreal Screwjob took place. Mr. McMahon, the rise of his character, fueled by a lot of people who were very upset by the way he treated Bret Hart. And it fed right into Austin and McMahon in 1998. You know, maybe it would have regardless, but, you know, we'll never know. Certainly, this was the gasoline on the fire. Bret Hart's career was never the same. You know, he won a couple of world titles in WCW, but his career never reached the heights that it did in WWE. His career was effectively over at this point, although he did get some moments in WCW, El Dandy, the metal plate that knocked out Bill Goldberg. There were some highlights in there from Bret's WCW run. But this is a night that will live in infamy, and I don't think that, you know, if you were not a fan back then and you were watching live, I don't think that you can fully appreciate how big of a fucking deal that was. And I will tell you this was 10 years before I started doing this podcast. I wish I was doing the sound off back in 1997, because if the sound off was a thing and YouTube was a thing, live streaming, would have had fucking 10,000 people watching me that night, as we all just would have been sitting here trying to figure out what the hell just happened. I mean, you think that like the Punk stuff and AEW and like some of this stuff, like people go crazy with the discussion and everything. What do you think was going on back in 97 once people realized what was going on? RSPW and the message boards that were around back then were lighting up, talking about what happened in Montreal, the newsletters, the dirt sheets, the wrestling hotlines that there were back then burning up. I mean, this was insane. Controversy that came out of this one incident, the backstage stuff, Bret Hart knocking out Vince McMahon with a punch. He punched out Vince McMahon. It's crazy how one night can leave such a lasting impact. To this day, WWE still puts together these special features and articles and talks about the Montreal Screwjob. They've tried to emulate the Montreal Screwjob They emulated it the year after this at Survivor Series when The Rock won the championship. I mean, that angle has been mimicked more than maybe any other. But it will definitely be a night that lives on in infamy long after we're gone. And I certainly will never forget where I was that night watching that pay-per-view. I remember being pissed they went off the air early. I remember vividly that show went off the air. I want to say it was maybe, 9:36. Yeah, usually they would go to like 9:50, 9:55. I just remember thinking, man, that's it? The hell, you got like 20 minutes left. But they just faded to black, and that's when, you know, you start to go online and you start to read things, and it's like, oh, shit. Because nobody knew at first exactly what had happened. We'll never have another night like that. But there it is, your number one biggest moment, certainly the most memorable in Survivor Series history, 1997 in Montreal.